themselves, where Xin Zhao and Leona love to go forward as the facilitators, but the Ahri and the Tristana can, sort of move forward and back as needed. They can kite the fights out, or they can, pile on top and be a part of that engage. But we are here. We are ready to go. It's AXIZ versus CGA, and it is time for the game to begin. As early on, we see a pretty standard point defense coming out from these teams, and I love this so much here, Oak. It's the cold start for Nap.
Yeah, really good. Trying to get as much gold as possible in the early game. And I mean, we talked a lot about the potential fight points that AXIZ have here, but actually the early draft from CGA I also really liked. So we saw the volley bear, which got picked last game as well, which I think functioned really well into Xin Zhao. Maybe we'll struggle a little bit more against double smite. We'll have to see how that goes. But on top of that, they have Syndra Ahri lane. Syndra's an incredibly dominant laner, and I think could really take best advantage of that. And alongside with the volley bear, as well as potential roams from Nima, means that I'm hoping they can play through the Syndra as much as possible to get some of that early game gold. It's really important for this GOM to get early gold to mitigate some of that pressure that Yoshi's going to have once they hit mid game, especially once we get access to, well, just disgusting engage combos coming out from a double support comp.
Yeah, definitely a big possibility. As looking across at the runes here, we do see the Hail Blades for Tristana. I like that a lot. More upfront bursts, as Mega Man took the bad end of a little bit of a trade there with Kaito. But it definitely helps with this dive forward mentality AXIZ has drafted for themselves, right? And it just gives them more potential to burst a key target out. We see the cleanse, an absolute necessity for Hybrid in this bot lane. Even though he's playing a high mobility AD carry, you can't let yourself get locked down and locked up because there's so much dive threat. You will just be eliminated in place. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does play around that as the game goes on. And we're seeing a bit of a mirrored start here. It's both junglers starting around the top side. It will be Volibear moving a bit closer and a bit quicker towards that bot side. It's level 2 first for AXIZ. So we can see both of these junglers know bot lane's going to be where the action is this game.
Indeed, and I think the first thing to note is that it does look like Cassin might be spotted out by that red trinket that came up from Mega Man really early on in this laning phase. So basically, Swamp and Mega Man are going to know where Cassin is and how they might want to affect lanes. And it seems like Ahri's managed to get first push in this mid lane, which means he's hopefully going to be able to pair up and secure this first scuttle. Not as important as it was a season ago, where Scuttle was the dominant fighting force. Saw some interesting choices around that before, but still, junglers want to secure this, especially because Tristana Leona, so much early game access, is big chunk out comes from Kaito.
Yeah, Kaito finding really good trades here on to Mega Man, and it's interesting because we think of him as really only capable of playing that Syndra, or not the Syndra, rather the LeBlanc and the Zoe, but he's making good use of this early game bully kit on the Syndra. And, Mega Man is playing Ahri, who really spikes around 6. The jut of her changes were centered around making her ultimate a more key part of her identity, making her more of a mobility carry. And it's interesting to see that, before level 6, where Ahri was thought to have some strength before, doesn't really have it in the lane. So we can expect to see some of these chunk outs coming, but that's not really going to tell us much in terms of the long scale play out of how this Ahri is going to affect fights. She'll be a little bit weak early, but it's fine.
I mean, yeah, she's happy to get Swamp in the mid lane here to help shove this out. This means this should force Kaito's TP. We'll see if Mega Man responds the same as well. Ahri having a little bit more access in lane now because of added AP ratios, not needing that charm to hit to get, which means actually, on top of that, she also gets earlier wave clip point, which is going to be really important for her roam timers. And we're seeing 5-man come out. So Yellow Yoshi hits that level 3 in top lane and immediately moves down to the spot side, dive looking for it. How can Hybrid and Nemo handle it?
Oh, Nemo played that so well with the knockup, and now it's Dicey who is going to fall, but it's the 1-for-1. Could it be the 2? Can they get Nemo as well? Yes, they can. It's the rocket jump reset, so Sangchu gets right out of dodge as well. It's the double kill for the Tristana. It's hook, line, and sinker. It's exactly how you drew up the early game, and it plays out exactly as you want it, as Sangchu getting so far ahead on this dominant dive pick, and they're here just in time for the dragon if they want it. Going to take the reset, it looks like, at the very least, is Mega Man. But man, that is just, you couldn't ask for a better beginning for AXIZ here.
Absolutely. With this sword start especially, Sangchu's going to really benefit from a potential early mythic. And you'll see here, even with the rotation coming out from CGA, it just wasn't quick enough. And I think a fantastic handle of the dive, but the numbers really show there. On top of that, Sangchu making sure to choose right targets. Fantastic use of that rocket jump to get on the right target, pick up the first kill, pick up that second one, and jump out very cleanly, which means 1 for 2. And we're already seeing a bounty pop onto Sangchu here as he's picked up. Not only does he also gets the pickaxe as well, which is a really big pickup for Sangchu.
Yeah, moving towards that mythic very quickly, but on the other end, CGA isn't hurting too badly. You can anticipate that this is the game plan. They're going to want to play lane dominant through bot lane with these early dives, with the roaming Rakan, but the Gwen is doing exactly what she was drafted to do, to protect against this strategy. As it's the Infernal Drake going over to AXIZ, Gwen, look at all these plates she has access to. She's leading the game in CS. She started the call, so she's going to be soaking up so much individual gold to try and offset things. It's actually CGA that have the gold lead, despite the 2 kills going over to the side of AXIZ, and now they've been burned once before, and CGA are playing smarter around this dive potential. They know that they're just going to look to repeat and repeat and repeat down here.
Look at all the gold they're losing. Even if this doesn't work out, Swamp's clearing here, Megamin's on a wave timer, so he has nowhere else to be at the moment, and look at all the XP that's being burned away by this bot turret here. While Snap picks up first turret, which is really big for this team overall in terms of total gold, Hybrid is really suffering this game. Just look at the level difference already, 5 levels to 4, and this is with the wave shoving in. This wave is going to bounce back now because we can see Sangchu on that big clear. So fantastic timers as well for Sangchu, and he's just looking so strong. So we're going to be asking the question come mid-game, how can Nap counteract the amount of XP and gold that's been put into Sangchu early game? You know, what point does this champion get online and start creating pressure on the side of the map hard enough that somebody always needs to be in response? And I think luckily Megamin going the TP means that once enhanced TP gets picked up, I think Ari has pretty consistent wave clear now with the changes that she got in 12.2. I think really it's going to be how hard Nap can push this lead.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. What I really thought was fun coming out from Nap was he was pinging the turret as he was taking it, you know, pinging on my way, just to tell his team, try and get them, guys, chill out. I know it's rough down there. They're zoning you off the turret. They're crashing 2 waves. They're finding these, you know, trying to find these repeat dive angles on you over and over again. But don't worry, we're fine. Like, we're staying equal. We have this late game if we just, you know, trust in what we drafted to do. And it's a good bit of leadership from Nap there, right? He's showing, you know, sort of that also important skill in League, which is just avoiding tilt. And now it's up to AXIZ to make the most use of Sangchu's lead and to find these victories around the objectives. But it's CGA who are first to the Herald here, and they have the rest of the team coming.
The rotate's coming though. We see Megamin's going to be late to this fight, but Sangchu and the rest of his team are there, and Cassin is in a really tricky spot at the moment. Who will first engage?
Yeah, it's Cassin going down onto Dicey. It's the bomb coming out. It's actually such a wipe coming up so far from AXIZ. That's 4 members, no 3 down. And Dicey has the stopwatch too on the Leona. He will fall in the end to Hybrid, but Megamin is continuing to chase. He forces out the flash from Kaito, and that was just such a big wash coming out from AXIZ. They used the lead they had generated around the bot side perfectly, and now they're going to get to crash top waves. They're going to get access to even more plates for Sangchu, and they are having, you know, won that fight, claiming the gold lead even.
Yeah, Sangchu hopefully going to pick up even more plays on the top side, and that play really all comes out from Sangchu being on the mythic 8-minute timer. And they knew that this Herald was going to happen because of Nap having so much presence and having so much potential gold. They knew that this Herald fight was going to come, so they instant rotate the bot to top side and play for that early skirmish. On top of that, getting the Herald means that if they can't CC, this could be a potential second turret getting picked up 9 minutes in game, and they get all that plating gold going onto Sangchu again. So, and finally we get the replay here, and I think, look, even with AXIZ being in a bit of a tough spot, Megamin obviously on the flank here early as the fight starts, so not able to play it out, but look at Sangchu's potential damage here, ignoring Nap's DPS onto him, basically melee stat checking him, and gets to play this fight off so well, kill the front line first, and it means that Kaito and Hybrid are left trying to find potential counter or counter damage options, but they're just so behind comparatively to the damage threat from Sangchu. Yeah, and we're seeing, look at the gold lead. So whilst Sangchu and Nap are really close in gold there, I think the play from AXIZ was so clean to pick off Nap first and Kasin first. That means that the response just isn't found in time from CGA. Really well played.
For sure, and you know, it just goes to show that those Tristana buffs putting in some work there, as Sanctuary was taken pretty low in the back line, but he was just tanky enough that, you know, even on about 1/10 health, Nap wasn't able to cut through him in time. That you know, bonus health per level really helping him out there, keeping him alive, and now it's going to be the turret taken, so that is first turret gold and full plates into the pocket of Sanctuary. It's CGI trying to find a cheeky brush. Megaman has a sniff, has an idea that they might be around, gets the pink down, and dissuades them from really trying anything too tricky, because he had full capability to scout them out. And it's really, it's interesting to see how much AXIZ is executing on this funnel Sangchu strategy, especially we talked about, right, pregame. Well, they can't, you know, they can't keep up these godlike stats for him forever. He can't play so well forever as the Ocean Drake is going over, but I think they're kind of showing your AXIZ that their plan is just to always play through this guy because he's so cracked on these big carries here in the bot lane.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's coming through the rest of AXIZ really enabling this player, right? Repeatedly double smite top now in 3 games. 2 out of 3 times is that's more than a coincidence. They're really trying to funnel as much time onto and gold into Sanctuary as possible, and I think they know how well it pays out. I think the comp actually that they managed to draft really benefits that. Double support, I think I've said that word 5 times now, but it's so important when you have this scaling Tristana. Remember, the early game pressure was pretty high with the Leona. I think scaling options for Trist are always so big, and when you combine that with the amount of potential pick and frontline that we're seeing, or at least pseudo frontline from AXIZ, is so important for this champion to function correctly. And yeah, I'm loving how AXIZ are playing around this player.
Yeah, and one of the things, you know, the knock-on effects of this double support, you know, double support. Of course, we just have to keep focusing on it, but it is, as you say, so big. They're only down about 1.6k here, RCGA, and that's not enough to have triggered objective bounties yet. They're even equal in terms of how many turrets have been taken. It's 1 for 1. Now it'll be 2 for 1 for AXIZ. But that's, you know, one system that's working against them, because now Nap is going to equalize it once again. They haven't triggered objective bounties because they're not down far enough, because Nap has so much gold in his pocket, and the Gwen wasn't able to use it to full effectiveness despite getting into the backline last time around with that needlework to be the big carry. So it's just more dominoes falling in line for AXIZ to make this strategy work for them. And now they're moving into the enemy jungle to try and take away camps as well, just trying to find that stranglehold, trying to find that choke out to keep CGA from finding a, you know, a clear avenue back in. At the very least, Nap does have time to free hit the tier 2. Going to take the reset instead, though, sitting on 6,900 gold, almost 7k there for Nap, so far ahead of the 8-ball. But look at Sanctuary right on the other side there, Oak. Ahead even, keeping pace and ahead.
Yeah, good for him, to be honest. This man is looking so
I mean, Tristana does do a lot of the farming for you, to be fair.
The beauty of unlocking these tier 1s early is that they get to put him in the ideal spot for the current game point, which is they get to put the AD mid, and he can freely shove in these waves, and AXIZ have the time, especially with Ari, and hopefully if they can keep this vision control that they've managed to secure up. We're seeing heavy vision in top side, as well as some light pink distribution in the bot side jungle on their side to try and mitigate as much pressure from CGA as possible. If they're able to keep this up, that means that AXIZ can continue to play in fog like they're doing now and just hover and wait for CGA to play up, make that initial pick option, and look for this first tier 1, which means which can be so much for securing third Drake, as well as looking towards the second Herald if they're going to continue their lead.
Yes, CGA going to be the first towards the pit, but they were last time, and it wasn't very effective for them as the dive threat from AXIZ sort of dissuaded them from being able to pick that up. It's a little bit of a split of priorities here as AXIZ not sure where to go. You saw them running back and forth in mid lane for a second, going to opt now to go and cut off this second Herald take. It's still a minute 30 to go on the Cloud Drake spawn, but they're just doing their due diligence, playing around the margins, playing from fog, like you point out, not making their intentions too readable as it's Kasin. He split the sky, but he didn't want to commit full on. It's Swamp who does take the commitment. That's the solar flare. And that is the pop-off from the Zeri, though. Does she have enough time to free hit? It's Dicey taking out Kassin. It's Nap moving forward, getting that needlework across multiple members. Now it's Nemo moving forward. Buys the multi-man knock-up! Yellow Yoshi! He's going to have to take that battle dance away. It's the 2 for 2 in the end, but it looked so promising from CGA. I think from behind you do take that, though.
Yeah, no, I think CJ are very happy with that. Oh, Sangchu was looking for it there with the rocket jump, but doesn't quite find it. And that's really through Sangchu being really limited in that fight. Gwen is immune is really the name of it here. And you'll see here how they play for this choke. Kassin almost gets a fantastic pick onto Yellow Yoshi early. Doesn't quite play out for him. But I think in combination with CJ finding a couple of really big fight points, as well as Sangchu really not being able to find effective DPS is really big there. So we thought this is really big with the solar flare. But look at this. The Gwen walks up, starts getting huge AoE damage point, and Sangchu isn't able to hit until around this point here. And then Nemo with a fantastic follow-up, consuming his life points in return for finding 2 more kills for his team. Very, very well played from CGA, specifically to know that they can still go for that turnaround and deficit. And they get 2 kills there and stop the bleeding at least a little bit.
Yeah, the team fight looking so much more even there than it did the last time the Herald was on the map. Bodes well for CGA, but what does not bode well for them is this will be the sole point being looked to be picked up by AXIZ. They have this Cloud Drake oh so low already, and that's an easy takeaway from Swamp. And now it is the... You know, thankfully it's the Cloud Drake. It's not the most effective, but it is the Cloud Drake point coming through for AXIZ.
I mean, we talk about Cloud Drake not being the most effective, but look at the champions that benefit from that movement speed. I think Yellow Yoshi's the big one, right? I think out of any Drake that a Rakan can get, I think Cloud Drake is the key one to be looking towards, because combine that with the quickening and you have some very concrete engage options you could be looking for, which means then they're going to be working through Hybrid's cleanse timer. They're going to be looking towards how often can we burn that timer from him, and then how many objectives and how much can we pressure up whilst that time is down, because so long as cleanse isn't up for Hybrid, especially if Soul gets picked up for AXIZ, he is so limited in how he can fight.
Yeah, and I think Mega Man definitely doesn't mind that Cloud Drake either.
Absolutely.
So maybe I misspoke, especially with the Ari, reset Ultimate Fantasy that we've seen come through on the rework. So the Cloud Drake, you can't sneeze at it. At the end of the day, well, maybe you could. I'm not sure. I guess you can sneeze from multiple things. Because if the clouds and the wind from the Cloud Drake are blowing up dust, maybe you do sneeze. Brilliant. But that's besides the point. As we, at the end of the day, the takeaway is AXIZ are continuing to scale up around their winning bot lane. Yep. They keep getting this free Drake priority. They have great vision around that pit. And, was just able to, tick over another objective for them. It was the second Rift Herald that was traded, of course. Kassin picked that one up, so they're going to have to try and find some value with it, but it's harder than the first Rift Herald to find good value off of Shirley. I think Shelly's the first one. Shirley's her sister.
Is that how it works? I thought they were both Shelly. Okay, well, I'm learning things now. You do use the Herald. And as we're hitting mid-game here, we're seeing Tiamat, Trinity Force picked up for Hybrid. Now, I want to see how Hybrid can potentially influence some of these fights, because this is really the big aspect of this draft is, okay, well, we got the signature AD at the moment. We got Zeri, who's probably strongest champion on patch at the moment. How can we pilot, and they managed to successfully get gold onto them. How can we pilot this champion in mid-game? And Hybrid, eyes are on you, because when you look at the potential fight points it can have against this comp, with all that move speed, look at how it can play around the Xin Zhao and Leonas once that initial engage is over, and how it can repeatedly set up its passive to further increase its move speed against basically a triple melee comp. How can Hybrid try and find damage points? So I'm looking towards Hybrid, bro. Let's pick it up. I want to see some play come up this player, especially if this team is finally able to create some vision of its own, because double support means that double support items. So AXIZ have taken large control of the vision game at the moment. We see a line cutting the map in half from top side to bot side, and this is really enabling this comp to choose when they want to fight. In turn, though, this means that if CJ can, as we see here, rotate onto triple red trinket, if they can limit this somewhat, then maybe they get to play on their own stead, and we can see if they can find a successful fight like they did in last fight, because around this Herald was the big fight, a success point was actually because they didn't have full knowledge on where people were.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, like you point out, to see can Hybrid, put on those carry pants. He's sort of the journeyman, right? He comes over from Korea, same as Sangchu. He is an import, but he was bouncing between challengers and more mediocre teams like Solewon and Breon Blade for so long. He never really got to make his mark. Meanwhile, Sangchu, fresh out of the academy system, young blood, young gun, showing off so much, showing up so far in the LJL season here in 2022, and now it's Hybrid who's been put on the OP character. He has the advantage in the game a little bit. He has the shutdown on his head. He has the 2 core items. Can he find the victory for his team around these fights?
Is that a Ari? Is that a Chemtech Purifier on the Ari?
Chemtech Putrefier on
Putrefier,
Ari.
sorry. Okay.
I don't This is why we need Nymera. I don't understand how Ari works completely. Chemtech Putrefier is after you give a buff of some sort to your team, you receive increased healing cut on the enemy, yes?
Yeah, if Ari gets the healing off, then she's going to be increasing her grievous wounds to 60%. That's about
a fun
as far
tech choice.
as I can talk about it, because the item itself isn't very gold efficient. It's mostly because of the potential AoE stacking you can get on that item. So I don't know if this is... I'm low-key going to assume this is bugged. As it does get hovered by the LJL spectators, so they're all questioning this item at the moment. Megamin, what's going on with this item change? It is a quick purchase into the 60%, right? And maybe they really want to rely on that to limit Nap and Kassin in terms of their potential healing, but I am still questioning it a little bit. Anyway, AXIZ stancing for this tier 1 here. Swamp's engaging onto Nap. I don't know if this is going to work out, though.
Yeah, I mean, that Hallowed Mist just creating resists out of thin air for Nap, creating a lot of safe space. But it could be with that halfway chunk out, just enough pressure needed to move on to the Soul Drake. But Nemo going to dissuade that one, going to walk right at Yellow Yoshi menacingly and say, come at me, bro. Get the vision down. And now they're dancing around it. Nobody wants to commit quite yet. A little bit of hitting. Hybrid wants to keep his stacks up here, wants to keep his charge all the way at the top of the bar. It's Dicey who's eaten a little bit of damage from the Scatter of the Weak. Yellow Yoshi, he's getting free hit by the Wind Drake. Yeah, but Dicey, is he too little? Now it is Sangchu who's getting knocked away. Nemo playing goalkeeper so well. Swamp going to have to run from that needlework, use the Crescent Guard. And CGA gets themselves their first Wind Drake here. That's a big pickup for them. They're keeping this game very close now.
Yeah, AXIZ in total making some questionable decisions, not only from itemization, but from placement. Sangchu, this is still the gods funneled on you, but we're seeing 3 items picked up. He's gone for Kraken, as we see a replay here.
He jumped in right as we're going to the replay.
It does look like Sangchu actually falls in the mid lane, so shutdown for Zeri here. And in the meantime, look at this fight. Sangchu is completely split up from the rest of his team, and Nemo playing the patient game here, holding that headbutt just to wait for Sangchu to pop up, which means that the rest of CJ get to focus on damage in this fight. And look at Hybrid here, free hitting for the majority of this fight. Immediately, as soon as Sangchu jumps forward, Nemo understands, headbutt away. The rest of CJ get to play forwards. They pick off 1 kill there and get access to the Drake. CJ are finding themselves in a turning point right now. The gold has swayed back onto their side.
Yeah, I mean, Sangchu, we talked so much about how important he was for AXIZ, but it was he who got caught out. Maybe overcompensating a little bit. His mispositioning around the dragon fight means that, maybe he felt the need to try and force something after the fact, but Kaito sitting on it, waiting for it, and Hybrid there to back him up.
Forwards. Oh, what am I watching? Sangchu!
You know what? It happens. Sometimes we like to do our tactical cosplay in the LJL here. Shoutouts to TSM. But yeah, Sangchu, definitely not his proudest moment there. But you know what? Hybrid takes that. And now, but look at Sangchu though. He's still at 11, almost 12k gold in this game.
Yeah, he's still 3 items.
Still running the map in terms of gold.
He just burnt summoners for free to die. I am questioning this player a little bit. Another question mark coming up for AXIZ is that I've recently learned that this Chemtech Putrefier on Ari does nothing because it only enables your allies. So you essentially have a 2,600 gold Oblivion Orb. Or 2,300 gold Oblivion Orb. So this is a really bad purchase, and this is really limiting Megamin's gold, because whenever we bring up that gold chart again, cut away 1,800 gold from that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I wasn't aware of how Ari worked. I knew she had self-healing. I didn't think she healed her teammates.
No.
Yeah, so definitely... definitely an interesting choice coming out from Megamin. We love the LJL.
The issue with this is when you do this kind of what's the word, more supportive build, not only is it not working, but on top of that, you're a much larger portion of your damage. We talked about Sangchu being that 41% damage for his team in the pregame, and this actually comes off largely off the back of Yellow Yoshi and the rest of his team playing more support orientated. Sangchu in turn would obviously get more damage percentage, but it should be the same for Megamin too. He is the secondary carry in a team where Yoshi is playing support role. So itemizing like this really hurts your AP damage, and this is going to give itemization options for CGA to look towards more armor orientated itemization, because the magic damage actually is going to get very stunted once mid game hits or once late game hits.
Yeah, magic damage a little bit non-existent on this team right now because you have that double support. Your top laner's not offering you any damage. It's just a very interesting, choice in terms of where.
Interesting's a good
I mean,
phrase.
they must believe in Sangchu that much. Yep. They must say, like, we have to play for Sangchu. And, so far that's worked very well, despite some overzealous, perhaps over-aggression out of Sangchu. That's the kind of killer instinct that hopefully will make him effective in bringing this one home in the late game. But the Baron Nashor is alive. It's ready to be taken at one point, so they're going to do the dance. They're going to do the tug of war around the vision, but it's Nap free hitting this tier 2 now. Oh,
and this is the difficulty with this comp, is that, okay, so they have a blind vision point, but they actually do see Yellow Yoshi rotating up to that, so they have the TP coming in now. What potential fight can CGA find? Will the Baron get taken?
It's down to 18. It's down to 900. The smite is there. It was missed, but Swamp still gets it. But it's Dicey who could pay. No, he still has the locket in the back end. It is Nemo trying. Okay, so they're just going to trade Swamp there. No, they get the Leona as well. Three Barons left, though. There's so much mobility from AXIZ. They get out of dodge there, Oak. They keep 3 Barons. Yeah,
the problem is that Baron's on a rather awkward timer for them, because they don't go for the fight there. This gives waypoint for CJ to unlock this mid tier 1. On top of that, Dragon is spawning in just under a minute now, and they don't have the opportunity to fight for that. Players will still be down on that timer. Very difficult for AXIZ. And we see here, Sangchu gets immediately exhausted, flash knocked up. He jumps out of this fight and he cannot fight this. Doesn't look like the rest of his team coin onto it quick enough, and they continue trying to fight. And that means that they bleed 2 players instead of 1, with Swamp going deep without any damage to follow up. And this means gold over to CJ, even with that Baron.
Yeah, and it also unlocks Kassin to get down here and get his team the second Cloud Drake for themselves. Deny that soul once again over to AXIZ. And things are at a point where Zeri could really start to run the show. She has hit her 3 items. Hybrid is ready to do massive DPS across these fights. It is still the Baron, though, so this push through mid lane going to result in at least the tier 1 for AXIZ. They still have, plenty of room left to play with, too, with Dicey on the flank. They just want to try and punish CGA, or at least collect some standing gold in the meanwhile. Dicey flashing forward! He gets the Solar Flare down, but it's a Howl missed out to create so much control. It was Kassin over the top. Sangchu running for the hills, but it's Yellow Yoshi who falls first. Swamp, a victim of the needlework. Look at that AoE off of Hybrid! He's picking up so many. Swamp goes golden, but it won't be enough. He'll fall, and that is 4 members taken off the board for AXIZ. CGA running it straight down mid. This should be at least an inhibitor.
Some over-aggression coming out from AXIZ there. Gets absolutely punished by CGA. A fantastic follow-up on Dicey's definitely over-eager engage, where he flashes forward without any follow-up to get damage onto Hybrid. Means that, the chase, especially this chase down from Nemo and Kassin, is so huge. Combining with Nap's persistent rundown means that they pick up 3 players, and that's an open inhib mid lane on a 29-minute timer. And look at the wave states that they've created, as the fight's going to do exactly what I said about, because I forgot to cast that properly. But still, you can see here Dicey flashing forwards to find the engage, but Hybrid immediately flashes out, and Yellow Yoshi tries to find a good engage with the quickening, but it gets shut down completely by this Crescent Guard. And then the rundown from CGA, just really disgusting, the amount of damage coming out from Hybrid, and they pick up 3 in a point where really, CGA should have been playing on the back foot. They should have been waiting for this Baron timer to run out.
Yeah, and it's what I love so much about this Titanic Hydra on Zeri. We see, you know, sometimes the... Ooh, boy. Sometimes we see the flip-flop between the Ravenous Hydra and the Titanic Hydra, but the cone being, you know, solely directed towards the back of the target you're hitting on the Titanic Hydra means it offers you even more range, as Hybrid was able to hit people who were running away full speed, but Dicey now caught out, going to be picked off. It's just domination now coming out from CG as they find Swamp as well. He has to go back in and pop the Crescent Guard, but he's never going to survive that fight. Sengchu trying to find the 1v1, and he does! He flashes away from Kasin! He splits the sky, but where can you go? Where can you run? You have 4 members running you down. The Hallowed Mist going to create the invulnerability for Nap as well. He can come in, he can snip down Sangchu, and now it's the run of the map once again for CGA as they found the 3-for-1.
Yeah, Sangchu manages to eliminate Hybrid there, which means that this potential inhibitor, Nexus pressure gets completely alleviated, and we'll see it here. But largely, I mean, I can't believe this engage option. They engage onto Dicey, one of the tankiest members of AXIZ, and they find it. Free hitting onto him, combined with the needling, means they just run him down. And the first pick really limits AXIZ counter engage options so much, and get to pick up another kill here. And we see Sangchu finding an incredible fight angle just to kill off the AD there, and doesn't mean much though as he gets run down just now.
Yeah, it was good usage of the reset off the rocket jump, right? But once the rest of your team is gone, finding that 1v1, not much of a difference maker there. And checking in on the builds, because, you know, we focused on the Zeri a lot because it's the exciting focal point. But looking at the Tristana, pretty bog standard hit frontline stuff. But the problem is, the front line is just there to buy space, right? Nap, we see him over and over again using that Hallowed Mist so well to create this big zone that Zeri can free hit from behind. So it's a little bit sad at this point. We think of Tristana, right, as this, especially as the game goes on, she scales super high range carry, but Hybrid's just doing that job better right now.
Absolutely. Finally, Drake is going to be spawning, and we see under a minute timer now. And AXIZ, whilst they're still on the back foot, now 4k down. It seems like they're still first in this Drake. Their pitching control seems to be continuing to be fairly good, even through this deficit. But CGA's pure presence means they get to do walk-in on this Drake around this timer, and they're going to be looking for this initial pick once again.
Yeah, Kasin finding Swamp, the Sky of the Week, the follow-up, and now here comes Yelioshi over the wall. Could they find him caught out? No, they just don't. They tickle the Volley Bears. Now, maybe the split calls moving through mid lane, trying to get the priority before the Drake spawns are AXIZ, but look at Hybrid's wave clear. They just disappear before him. CGA now get to turn once again. There is one deep TP ward for AXIZ behind the pit, but they don't have 2 TPs because of Yelioshi taking the smite. And are they going to split this? Baron for Soul Point, I suppose. You take it at this point, they're going to leave just Nap to solo it down there. I like that.
Well, Nap has to leave because they see that the Baron's being initially taken. So this is AXIZ just trying to create a little bit of time, create a little bit of space for CGA to slowly pressure them out. Unfortunately for that, inhibitors being pushed in through mid lane. So AXIZ are on like a 30-second timer before this wave is in their base and somebody has to deal with it. And they're feeling it here. This pressure right now means that CGA should be able to freely now walk down to this dragon, pick that up, and then on top of that, with this wave pushing into mid lane, as well as this bot wave, they could potentially be looking towards Baron as well.
Yeah, I mean, AXIZ, it's starting to feel like they're playing very trepidatiously and very scared almost. They came into this game with such a clear to execute game plan as Nap does pick up that win Drake point for his team. And now that they're less confident around these objectives, right? They start the Baron, the Scryer's Bloom comes across and they say, no, we can't do this. And in the end, they gain nothing for themselves. So it's interesting to see the way that their sort of attitude has changed as the game has gone on and plans have been undone. Things have been unmade. Hybrid trying to poke out Dicey a little bit, but this Leona not going to fall right now. Just going to try and move forward and get some vision down. Been absolutely, you know, a masterclass from CGA, though, in terms of not getting tilted from the early dives. And now Hybrid is in this strong position on a pick that I don't think we should see get through the first phase of bans until 12-4 again, because...
Yeah, absolutely. CGA have managed to create a space where all their problems we mentioned, like maybe I'm talking, but they're getting engaged upon. We might see a fight here. I don't think anything's going to happen other than the Alistair ulti being burned, but we questioned Kaito, Hybrid, and Nemo, both on their respective uses within the team. We said Kaito was a bit of a question mark for this player. How is Hybrid going to effectively play through fights, and how is Nemo going to be a facilitator for his team? Well, all of those have been met this game thus far, as after a really kind of wonky early game, coming to mid game, they've managed to play their roles almost to perfection. TB comes in, the Baron is being stanced for. Will AXIZ get this in time?
Yeah, they actually do burst it down, but could this be a repeat of last time? Could they lose the fight on the back? And it's Hybrid once again splitting so much damage across. Nemo now backing him up. Nap went forward. He had that Hallowed Mist to keep himself alive. Hybrid over the wall. He instantly deletes two! And now it's going to be Swamp who falls. Nemo just playing Bouncer, playing Bodyguard. He might fall, but what does it matter? Sanctu, the last man standing. Flash for flash, but Hybrid's still here. He didn't know where Sanctu was. What was that W? But it doesn't matter now. He knows which bush to target. Sanctu, though, getting so much value off of that Hex Drinker, but Nap, in the meanwhile, in the mid lane, saying, just chase him down, don't let him back, I'll do the ending, don't you worry. He can't get back to base to get this Baron buff down on the next offensive waves of minions. Can Nap actually end this? No, they're backing off, they're going to the jungle, they're just going to choke away more camps, but yeah, it's two Barons we've seen for AXIZ this game result in no net swing towards their advantage. It's sort of a Baron throw both times.
Yeah, and this fight was almost fantastic for AXIZ. We saw the Kassin flashing early, trying to steal, but wasn't able to find it. But in return, I mean, look at this play coming up from Hybrid. Fight looks relatively even. I mean, obviously, AXIZ are very, very chunked. Hybrid goes in and completely deletes them, finding a fantastic counterpoint. And yeah, they play entirely off this kill pickup here. And whilst they run down Sanctu, Nap does a fantastic job of shoving him mid, get this mid inhibitor unlocked again, which is going to really nullify this Baron that gets picked up for AXIZ.
Yeah, and I do just want to point out, you know, in the aftermath, Sanctu getting chased around in that top lane. He does have the Maw of Malmortius, which used to be a bit of a bait item, but now with those buffs coming in, giving it the Omnivamp, and it's so much value against, you know, Hybrid does about half magic damage on this champion, right? Despite being an AD carry, a lot of split damage, a lot of split ratios on Zeri, so it provided them so much value there in that top lane to keep him alive, but can it provide enough value to win the game? As Swamp, he sees his angle, he goes in, but Nemo zoning away the backline of the other team. It's just Hybrid doing it all again, but Megaman finds the first kill. Swamp onto Kaito, but Hybrid, he's just never touched. Yellow Yoshi will fall. It's Dicey who's having to run. It's Megaman who is left all on his lonesome. Look at him just get chunked out. Nap keeps himself alive, and they find the triple for the Zeri, and they should find the end off the back of it. Super streaming in behind them. The base completely naked, completely exposed. It's going to be CGA completing their underdog story.
What a fantastic turnaround from this early game. We thought AXIZ had a fantastic draft coming in. Yellow Yoshi known for this kind of playstyle, and it works so well with Sanctu, but a couple of missteps in key team fights where Sanctu was meant to be the lead, meant to be the DPS, and wasn't able to find it. Really well played from CGA to finally get comfortable in their roles. Nemo, such a facilitator for this team alongside with Nap.